What's up, everybody? Fix this a little bit. All right. Going to give everyone a little bit to join in, and then we're going to start talking weekend matchups. Dusty, why are we late? AF today? Just had, again, kind of one of those non-planned calls happen, so had to delay it a little bit. I'm actually surprised, Dusty, that Kendall Rogers hadn't come out with some like deep list of guys for potential hiring at Georgia Tech. Afternoon. What's up, Zach? What's up, man? Turn this music down. Is anyone playing already today? That's the question. All right, so let's look at some of these matchups we have here. So obviously last night, Florida and Ole Miss played game one. Florida lost again game one. Florida now 7-game losing streak in conference. So about as must-win as it can possibly get for Florida. And again, it's not just must-win like today. It's kind of you got to win the series. You got to get 2 wins in the win column. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch. Obviously, Florida State against Notre Dame. I think most people are going to have Florida State picked to potentially sweep there. Buenas tardes. What's up, Buck? Wake Forest and Virginia Tech. That'll be a great series. It's in Winston-Salem, but Virginia Tech's playing pretty well. Was watching a bit of Pitt. Oh, yeah, Pitt BC's playing right now. You're right. But Wake and Virginia Tech, that's going to be a great series. Buck, can you explain something with recruiting? I still can't get my head around. I've been taking an interest in D1 players for schools who are not top-tier programs, attracting the best, wondering. For example, the kid starting for Pitt today is local here in New York City, and I know the travel team he played on, not high end, and his metrics were a low 80s fastball and not even rated by PG. What is the path for him and how these programs recruit these guys? Well, I mean, it's very subjective, Buck, right? Like every place is different. Um, Now at Pitt, one of the things has to do to be competitive is kind of identify. They have to be really good at projecting out. So if they find a kid, and now it's different, right? Because you can't talk with schools until August 1st of your junior fall. But before that, like schools like Pitt had to identify guys who were not throwing super hard or whatever, but projected to get there. And so maybe that's what Pitt did with him. They just kind of liked the motion, liked his frame or whatever, and ultimately think he's going to be a good pitcher. But a lot of programs aren't doing that anymore, right? Like the Power Four programs in general that are contenders, they're not doing that as much. And again, you really can't do it as much now because you can't even get a scholarship offer until August 1st of your junior year. So at that point, there's not much projecting left to do. I mean, there is a little bit, right? You're kind of looking at, okay, if he's throwing like 89, 91 as a junior, or going into his junior fall, he's probably going to add a few miles an hour over the next couple of years and maybe even more. But it was different when you could offer a freshman or a sophomore and have a much better idea of kind of what or not have a much better idea, but like you'd have to seriously project out on those kids. So there's no real rhyme or reason to it. It's a subjective thing. Everyone's different, but like schools and a lot of mid-majors recruit like that. Like if they feel like, this is the type of kid who, if we let him get to junior summer and he takes a leap like we think, we're not going to get him. So they're going to offer that kid. And sometimes you miss on those. The pitching video you dropped yesterday was something every PO parent needs to watch. Thanks, Avon. Appreciate that. Or Avon, Barksdale. I never can remember how to say it. Buck, thinking about a lot of the northern programs in the Big Ten and the ACC. Yeah, it's just, again, if you're not a contender in the ACC or Big Ten or whatever, you're one of like the bottom tier teams in that league, you're probably not going to win out on a lot of the top guys. And so what that means is you're going to have to take chances on guys that may not have stuff there now. And that's difficult. Dusty, I was talking about one of the things I've seen that kind of tends to be something that a lot you see with a lot of amateur pitchers that end up going to like big schools is when I watch them pitch, I'm wondering, or I'm watching and thinking, all right, how many swings way out of the zone is he getting just because his stuff is way overpowering to the average high school player? So what I said in the video is that if I'm watching a guy pitch and he's really not commanding the zone, he's just getting, and this is what you'd see this on like a social media account saying dominant outing by so-and-so or whatever, or just like overpowering outing. And if you actually watch the video, it's like the guy's not even throwing strikes. He's getting chases on pitches because the average high school hitter is so much worse than him skill level wise that he's getting away with it. And that's a guy that gets to college and all of a sudden they're not swinging at those pitches. They're not getting those strike calls 4 inches off the plate. And all of a sudden that's a guy that's in a 2-0 count every hitter and he's getting lit up. And so the whole point of the video was like, if you're a pitcher, like analyze your outings and look back to, okay, just because the strike percentage says 58% or 60%, in actuality, where a lot of those strikes pitch swings way out of the zone where guys are just getting overpowered. So that was what the video basically was about. So if I have a player who is accomplished in travel, has solid metrics, but not a top tier Power Four player, what is the process for those tier two D1 schools, not the big Southern and mid majors? What is the process? I mean, again, they like the coaches have to get out and watch them play. I mean, there's no, it's not handled really any differently. It's just coaches are with that type of player. A coach is going to have to be convinced more and more and really fall in love with the player, because it's either him or a guy out of the portal who they generally know what they're getting. So, and that's the type of player, Buck, that is losing out the most. And with all these changes, it's that player who may not be the highest ranked guy, but he can really play, like, very good baseball IQ, but may not stand out in a showcase, may not really stand out in the batter's box or whatever. Those are the guys that coaches have to see play 5 times for every 1 time they see a stud. Yeah. So like when you're a player in that category, the coach has to fall in love with you, right? And they have to watch you play and that's the kind of player I was. I mean, if you came to watch me play once, you thought, okay, and he's a pretty good player. But if you watch me 5 or 6 times, all of a sudden you're like, he's got a great approach. He knows what he's doing at the plate. He hits the ball in the barrel. He flies around in the outfield. But again, if you just saw me in a showcase, you're like, oh, he runs a really good 60, but like everything else, like, I don't know, because I didn't have hardly any power, and I was a small guy and skinny, nothing on me but skin and bones. And but again, if you came and watched me play 4 or 5 times, which Georgia Tech did, like, I think they always probably walked away saying he's got a professional approach. He knows what he's doing at the plate. He plays really good defense. He plays the speed game, like he bunts for hits and all that stuff. So I've, found a way to get a couple schools to fall in love with me, but I was not one of those guys that's like giving him an offer after watching him play 1 time. Sorry, process is the wrong term. How do these schools recruit when they don't have options with the top 250 players? Well, I think they do have options with some of them, right? Certainly not all of them, but they do have options with some of them. I think they're going to have, I wouldn't categorize top 250. It would be more like outside of the top 100 or top 150. But they're still going to be able to get those guys every once in a while. But they have to do what I just said, Buck. I mean, they have to find the guys that are actual ball players. And what that means is just grinding a lot more on the recruiting trail. Buck, that doesn't mean those players aren't valuable. Some of them go to college and really develop. Yeah. I mean, college baseball is filled with guys that were not expected to be a stud, and they are. And it's because they didn't have like the 5 tool set that a lot of these guys or some of these top guys have. They didn't have like the physicality in the box. They didn't like wow you when you first show up to see them. But they just get the job done every day. Really good example of your experience. So you have to get in front of them as much as possible. However, with the change in recruiting, I imagine that's a challenge. Yeah, it's definitely more challenging. And again, because with the portal making recruiting classes smaller and these changes to the roster size, it's interesting because now there's less room for guys like that, right? And teams are just recruiting a lot more nationally now too, especially with the scholarship changes. Like the schools that are getting a lot more scholarships, they can recruit way more nationally because they don't need to. They're not worrying about like, oh, we need to get a bunch of in-state guys for the in-state tuition and the smaller scholarships we can offer them because of that. Like when I was getting recruited, even though Georgia Tech would bring in some guys from out of state, Dusty being one of them. But it was like 3 or 4 guys in like a class of 20. So it's just different. And you're right, Buck. I mean, it is way more challenging for players like that. Barksdale, how does the tech news affect the 26 class commits? It's going to be interesting to see. I worked with one of their 26 commits, and his dad texted me as soon as he saw it. And he was just like, hey, you heard anything about what's going to happen? And I said, I'll as soon as I find out, I'll let you know. But that is something to watch. Barks is like the the longer there is in let's say, like, again, a lot of people are saying they're feeling that James Ramsey is going to get named the head coach, maybe even sometime this coming week. If that happens, I think you won't see much change in the recruits, because he's been the recruiting coordinator, so you're not going to see change. But let's say they don't make an announcement, and at the end they wait till the end of the year to do like a national search in quotations. And I'll pull the screen down while we're just talking. Then we you could see some things happening, because again, if players are like, well, we don't know who's going to be here, we don't know if any of the staff is going to be back. So, like, do we feel comfortable still, like, going to a school where a coach hasn't recruited us? We just have to watch and see. Dusty, I'm hearing some juicy gossip on this Georgia Tech opening. A lot of different directions this could go. You've been holding some back from me or what? Zach, Wednesday was one of the worst performances I've seen. Yeah, Canes was telling me. That it was not good. Just an absolute embarrassment and disgrace to the fans and university. Dusty Schlossnagel. Yeah, I don't think so. Somehow I don't think that's going to happen. Schloss, it's like he's on a journey to be the head coach at every major school in Texas. All the Power 4 schools in Texas. He's just got one more to go, I think, right? One more? Texas Tech. So I think Schloss is in the state of the Tech. He's going to be in the state of Texas until he's done. Did you see Baseball America released a bracketology? No, I didn't, Zach. What did any interesting bits from it? Kyle wants Skylar Meade badly. I've never said that, and that's actually not what I think. I've just said, I think, from talking to people, like, his name gets brought up anytime the Georgia Tech job possibly opening. Anytime that conversation happens, that's what a name a lot of people bring up. I think everyone here knows where I stand. I think James is the guy to go with. But it ain't my decision. So it's fun to have conversations about what could happen. But I think, like, there's no doubt in my mind that Skylar Meade would be interviewed if it goes to a coaching search. There's no doubt. But you guys have heard me talk. I mean, I think one of the things that, besides Ramsey being one of the best assistant coaches in the country, he's also got some pretty big players that want him. You guys should put a vote to all ex-players to see who they pick. If I guess we could do that with the guys we know, but it doesn't mean anything. Dusty, wait, Kyle, are you officially endorsing James Ramsey? I guess. I mean, it's not my decision. It doesn't matter. I just think the things that we know, Dusty, that I'm not going to talk about on here. Like, to me, he is the best pick with the constraints that are involved. I am going to apply. Really, Dust? You're going to apply? Interesting. That's what all those going into work out every day is about. Now I get it. You've been having conversations with Jay Batt now, I think. Zach. Maybe, Zach, but let's see what happens with UNC this weekend. Brian Bohannon sleeper. I know you texted me that, Dusty. I just don't. I think you made that up. My top candidates in no particular order. All right, let's see. What up, Coach? My high school team's 6-0. How's your team looking? Great job, Coach. We're 7-0 in region. I think we're 11-5 overall. So we started out not playing great, but we've been lights out in region. In our last 2 or 3 weeks, I think we're like 9-2 or something like that. So just saw Florida gave up 13 walks last night. Yeah, it was and they still were in the game, So like those 13 walks just killed them, right? They did a good job of limiting the damage, but like you walk 13 guys and the other team minimizes their walks. It's just it makes it almost impossible to win a game. Dusty, I'm waiting for your no particular order. Dusty, what is this list? Ramsey, Scott Strickland, Skylar Mead. I'm assuming that's Zeke Pinkham and Flea, Frank Anderson, Bobby Werns. I don't think Frank wants to be a head coach. I feel like he's loving life, getting paid more than most head coaches in college baseball to be the pitching coach at Tennessee. Let's go. Can't wait for playoff baseball. Yeah, same. I'm excited for it. Zach, Florida's on life support. Man, yeah, I mean they're in they need 2 games this weekend and they lost game 1. So like they're in must-win territory. Cuz now you think they're 0-7. They have 23 games left. To get to 13 wins, they have to go 3 games above 500 the rest of the way, which they can do, but it just leaves no room for error. Shear would out recruit any of them, dude. Dusty, you can't put a list like that and then expect to be. Would be shocked if James Ramsey didn't get the job. Yeah, I think that's the prevailing kind of feeling, but you just never know. You never know. And again, my thought is like they give DH the weekend to honor him. I'm going to the game tonight for the pregame ceremony honoring him. Dusty, I think, is going to be there too, so I'll be at the game. Can't stay too long because I got 2 little kids, and bedtime is not much later than after 6 o'clock. But I'll be there for that. So I think they give him his due on the weekend, honoring him, and obviously the rest of the year. But I think if they are going to announce something, you might as well do it quickly so that there's no. There's no all of a sudden, like, this is the thing. If you're going to pick Ramsey, then you just make that decision. So there's no doubt in any of the recruits' minds who's going to be there. Dusty, I'm not calling that. See, this is the thing, guys. Dusty, just know this about him. He's a pot stirrer, and he always tries to twist your words. All I'm saying is if they are going to hire him, if that's the decision, you do it as quickly as possible to minimize any possible damage in recruiting. Because like I said, one of their top players in 26 class who I worked with, the dad texted me yesterday right away, which is totally normal. That's fine because that's the first thing that goes to your head when a coach announces a retirement or gets let go or whatever. You start to wonder who's going to be there next year, right? So my feeling is this: if it is not announced next week, that tells me they're going to do some kind of a search, of which I think Ramsey's still the front runner. Now, what are you calling, Kyle? You just said I've been saying. Is that not directly calling it? All right, I need you to listen to what I've been saying. If they are going to pick him, then they will announce it soon. If I didn't say they're going to pick him and they'll announce it, right? I said if they're going, if the in J Bat's mind, he's like Ramsey's our guy, then you announce it rather quickly post a retirement announcement. So that recruits don't, and again, they've got a very loaded 26 class. Like their 26 class is really good. So if you're concerned about losing anybody there and you feel like you have the right guy, you make that decision. So what I'm saying is if that doesn't happen fairly soon, then I think it makes it kind of seem like they're going to wait till after the season to make a decision. Virginia Tech upset over Wake. I think it's going to be a close game, White House, but I think Wake will win. I think Wake's just a little too better than Virginia. Doesn't mean Virginia Tech can't pull off an upset. I just think Wake wins at home. But we'll see. Buck, do you think Danny Hall will weigh in with an opinion? I mean, he's a very opinionated guy. So I think so. But again, it's a question of like, does the AD, how much weight does he give that? And DH has already he has, like Dusty said, loosely endorsed JR or Ramsey in a few publications, basically saying like, Super chat, $10. $10 from John. Won 200 on Virginia yesterday. Hey, love it, John. I thank you for giving back, man. I do not give out betting advice, but appreciate that, man. But yeah, so DH kind of has done that already, albeit he hasn't come out and strictly said he should be the next head coach. He has said like, I see him as the potential successor. Is this John Ganter? I don't think so, Dust. I don't think so. Maybe it is, though. I don't know. He can't come out too strong, as that would tie the AD's hands. Yeah. And again, like who knows what conversations are being had behind closed doors. I can tell you, like, I think DH behind closed doors has probably said that to J Bat. Like, I think Ramsey's the guy. And again, because that continues DH's legacy, right? If the guy that is kind of his protege, that he's, kind of developed and grown and all that stuff for the last 7-ish years, that continues his legacy even further. Because it's like, if James goes on to having a lot of success at Georgia Tech, it's like DH, this is the guy that he was his protege. I wouldn't mind if GT went a pitching direction. I don't know. Frank Wren wouldn't agree with that direction, Dusty. Any world in where they bypass JR as head coach, hire a pitching coach, and they keep JR around? I think they would definitely, like, it would be stupid to not ask him to come back with what he's done as a hitting coach and a recruiting coordinator. But the question is, would James want to stay around? And I think, knowing James, I think it would be like I think he would go try to get a head coaching job somewhere else. Can you imagine? Yeah, I mean, that would be a tough pill to swallow. But again, I think you and I know James. I think like his goal is to be a head coach. So I think if for some reason it didn't happen here, like I think his next move would be to try to take over at a good mid-major program and try to win, and try to get that on his resume to become a Power 4 Division I head coach. James Ramsey needs to hire Kyle as a base coach. Hey, you said it, Zach. Dusty, I don't know the situation and personalities, but knowing organizations kind of unlikely. You're definitely right, Buck, especially if DH is advocating for him. James wouldn't trust Kyle to make his coffee, let alone coach a base. I don't know about that. He definitely wouldn't trust me to make his coffee. I don't, because Dusty, and this is where I just don't think you might. This is showing you don't know James. He's very particular with how he makes his coffee. He's got the whole setup in the office, and I mean he's making. I wouldn't know how to make it, so he definitely wouldn't trust me with it. Because also James knows I'm an energy drink guy. I'm not really a coffee guy, so he wouldn't let the energy drink guy make his coffee for him, which is fine. That's fine. But you're showing a little bit of your lack of knowledge now. James has got the French press in the office with like the special beans, and he knows like the notes of the coffee and all that stuff. I just drink a Ghost energy drink and let it ride. Well, I can't call him Rammer because I think most people won't know that. And again, because there's people on here that aren't like connected to the Georgia Tech program. So I call him James or Ramsey because everyone knows that. But yeah, I've never called him James to his face. It's Rammer or JR maybe. What's the best in-game sports drink? To be honest, dude, there's not really a good one. I mean, Gatorade for sure is better than Powerade, but like there's, it's funny how much like there's so much sugar in those drinks, and like you're way better off just making like some water with lemon juice and like salt and drinking that. That's going to keep you way more hydrated. If Ramsey doesn't get hired, we need the new coach of Miami to hire him as the hitting coach. I wouldn't blame you for trying. Guy can coach hitters, man. Guy can coach hitters. Like, I mean, his track record since he took the hitting coach job at Georgia Tech is just nothing but one of the top 3 hitting coaches in the country, I think. There's just no question. Coconut water, yeah, John. Coconut water. All right, let's shift to the... No, we don't need to talk about Miami head coach because J.D. Arteaga is still there. And the season is not over. If you guys want to talk about shortlist there, you can. But I think it's a little premature to talk shortlist until something actually happens. I usually mix some electrolyte powder in water. Yeah, that's a good one. That's good too. The thing is, like, I think for years, like when all of like me and Dusty and guys my age were coming up, like it was always said like Gatorade's perfect because your body needs to replenish sugar. And that's true in some regards, but it doesn't need like 30 grams of sugar, And so again, you are replenishing fluids. There are electrolytes in there, but then the excess sugar in there is dehydrating you again. Keynes and Zach have already fired him. Well, they're not in charge. Is that 5th-year JUCO kid that went to Tennessee playing? Can you give me his name, Tim? Oh, no. You mean Alberto Osuna? He has not been granted eligibility. And if you read into the story, it's kind of messed up what the NCAA did. Because again, from his accounts, basically he was told, "Yeah, just file a waiver and you'll get eligibility." And he's like, "Well, I can't file a waiver because I'm at a D2. I can't file a D1 waiver unless I'm at Because Dusty, he had gone from UNC to University of Tampa, and then transferred from Tampa to Tennessee. And the reason he transferred to Tennessee is because he was told if he had to transfer before he could file a waiver. Well, he transferred, filed the waiver, and then he was denied. And so he's like, "Wait, you guys just told me all I had to do was transfer and file a waiver." I haven't heard anything about him recently. I'm not saying he will get fired, but the team is really, really, really bad right now. I would be shocked if they turn it around. That's fair. They have not been playing well. Also, the ingredients are terrible. Gatorade Fit isn't a bad option either. Yeah, like the Gatorades, like that are like zero sugar and all that are way better. Like those are way better. I mean, but I was a big Gatorade guy. I mean, that Gatorade Cool Blue or Gatorade Orange or what's the purple one? The grape flavored one. That one's fire. No, you don't, Dust. You don't know. You're proving that you don't know things. You said you had all this gossip and juicy stuff to say, and then you haven't said any of it. So, all right. So supposedly the Pitt in Boston College game is going off right now. Grape guy, that says a lot. I mean, if like, I'm sorry, but if you, what's that dark purple, the Gator? I can't remember the name of the flavor. Gatorade. It's unbelievable. It's one of the best, no doubt. And then you know what? One of my favorites recently that came out is the lime cucumber. That is a phenomenal flavor as well. Why are the live stats for Pitt? Here's a sleeper situation. All right, Dust, let's have it. Oh, I'm on the wrong date. What's going on here? I'm not on the wrong. What is going on, D1? All right. Well, the Pitt Boston College game is not showing up on D1 Baseball's live scores. All right. Let's see. BC was down 7-2. They scored 6 runs in the bottom of the third to take an 8-7 lead. Mike Bell gets fired after this year. JR gets head coach. Staff Ramsey, Bell, Strickland, Schulman. Maybe. That's possible. So do you think Strickland steps into an official coaching position at that point? Red, always red, and sometimes orange. And yes, red is a flavor. Red is that's basic, Buck. That's a red flag that the red Gatorade's your favorite. Nothing unique about the red flavor. It's just fruit punch or something. The perfect sports drink is coconut, but in the US, all that is healthy is costly. Yeah. You're right. You're right, Reyes. What's up, man? Welcome back. Water with electrolytes is the best way to go. 100%, Zach. All you got to do if you want to be hydrated is drink every morning I drink about 60-ish ounces of water with a couple big pinches of salt. Just mix that up and you're good. I think Strickland is the associate head coach with hitting title and works catchers, or maybe Zeke gets the hitting coach job. I used to get an all-natural flavor drink from my grocery store. Unfortunately, I had to stop getting them because they started using a whole bunch of artificial flavors. Yeah. Well, all those artificial flavors are coming down, or they're leaving our country soon. Thank God. Those artificial colors too. Those are the worst. Um, okay, Dust, we got. Is that your sleeper situation? That's one of my many sleepers. Yeah, I was talking about. Yeah, if 2020 isn't wiped, UGA maybe wins it. Yeah, I mean, 100%, 100%. Like, and I said this, Dusty, on one of the streams at night. I think, like, the one thing that people don't realize about what Scott Strickland did at Georgia was like Georgia was very much like bottom of the SEC, not very good. Post like the late 2000s World Series teams with like Gordon Beckham and all that. And so he came in, and you have to remember Georgia's facilities compared to other SEC schools, and even compared to Georgia Tech and anywhere around, were way worse. Like Georgia had the facilities that Georgia had in 2021 were the exact same as they were in 2010 when I stepped on campus at Georgia Tech. So that's 12 years. I mean, those facilities were like over a decade, like a decade and a half old. And so Strick was recruiting with the worst facilities in the SEC for the most part, and taking over a program that had been like on the downhill for a while, and he turned them into a contender. And again, like Dusty said, in 2020, I mean, that team was elite. You had two first round arm pitchers on the weekend, and good offense, just a really good team. And COVID snapped the chances of that happening, because then their Friday guy got drafted. I think Wilcox got drafted, who was their Saturday guy. They both threw upper 90s with really good off speed. Oklahoma State versus Kansas sleeper game. Yeah, that is a good game. Solid game. Got to run. Work getting in the way. We'll check in tonight after the games. All right, see you, Buck. Yeah, we'll probably do something tonight. We'll probably do a stream tonight. For real, John. All right, guys, that's going to be it. I got to go. I got a call coming up, but a lot of games tonight. We will have a stream tonight after all these games, or well, some of them are probably still going on, and we'll talk about what's happened on the